Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Coach Dave Academy lap guide video. My name is Bart, and today I'll be taking you for a lap of Oran Park in the iRacing Formula iR-04. Let's get to the hot lap. Okay, so heading down the main straight at Oran Park. Pretty simple here, just stay on the right hand side of the track and stay next to the wall so we get a wider approach for the first corner. So first corner, it's pretty tricky, maybe the trickiest corner on the track. We've got this double left, and it's really it's a slow left that's preceded by a left kink, and because of that left kink, we can't take the entry flat until we hit the brakes. And this is going to be a bit tricky for us because we can't push this corner fully and then have a separate braking zone. It's kind of, we're going to have to, how to say, compromise our braking for the second left because of the kink. So you see what I do here is we have a little bit of lift. If you keep it flat, the car will be too fast, and also you won't be able to position nicely as well, which we'll see in a moment for the braking phase of this corner. So going in, you can see the main thing here I find is getting a very straight, a flat car towards the turn-in point, rough turn-in point, the widest entry point for the corner, which is up here, right? So we really want to try and keep the car, I know it's not perfectly straight, but sort of a diagonal straight direction so we can hit and be quite efficient on the brakes. And here we're just going to lift a little bit, we're going to turn a little bit just to set the car. If the front tires feel like they're really scrubbing through this left kink, you're probably slightly over pushing it, and when you hit the brakes, the car won't quite sit. It needs to just be, sounds a little bit odd, but just slightly under the limit so we can really attack the braking. So you can see here, I'm about mid-track, maybe slightly left and mid-track. We've got this line here as a kind of reference, but I always like to think main point is we're lining up with this entry point like we originally spoke about. And then down to second gear in the braking. And you can see I just kind of, I can't hit peak pressure straight away because they're not fully straight, but I kind of just build into the pressure a little bit. So we're lifting so we can help turn the car a little bit. And then we get the steering lock off, point it out to the edge of the track, brake, just bounce the car, and then start bleeding out. Down to second gear, try and get hooked onto this little cambered bit of this curbing, not riding on the top edge of it either. And then look up for your exit and full throttle second gear. You can run this in third. I just think the balance is a bit better and the braking's a bit better if we drop it down to second quite late. And then you can run on this curve it's quite high, but it's quite smooth, so it won't upset the car too much. Okay, so heading into this next right, I like to take second into here. No braking markers on the left, but you've got a good reference in terms of where this kind of curbing starts on the left-hand side. So we're braking just at that point where it starts. Down to second gear. I say main key for this corner is I think it's very easy to get sucked in early and just turn early, look in early, apex early, overslow the car, and then be either picking up throttle too early, playing around with the throttle. So just watch that we're rolling and pushing the entry while still making the apex is really important. So looking around around the curbing to here-ish in the corner. Down a second gear, see, it's a very late downshift from me. Just as we're turning into the corner, that will help slow the car down a bit more, help your exit, and also just help with the rotation in the mid-corner. Aggressive throttle pickup. And now just keeping the car straight. This is quite a tricky corner as well. This right-hander, because we go over where another kind of, let's say, layout of the track is cutting through on the entry phase of the braking here. And then, so we've got what's off camber, it turns into a cambered corner that kind of goes off camber again on the exit. So it's a little bit bumping up. With this car being so low and easily upset, it can be a little bit tricky here. What you can kind of see that the car turns in more than you think because you're off cambered initially and then it cambers over this crest. So it looks at this point that I'm not going to make the apex necessarily, right? But you can see here the camber just hooks the car in. Main thing is just being smooth over this bump and not having too much steering lock on until you go over this crest. If you try and aggressively turn the car in before you go over this crest, it'll get really upset. So just try and steer the car in gently, and then once you get it into this camber, then you can start to be a bit more aggressive with the steering. A relatively soft brake there, let's say medium kind of brake, not very long. Early throttle, super important on this corner. If you over push the entry, you quite often find the rear is very loose on the exit, so it's nice here to just have a nice early throttle pickup. Doesn't have to be straight to full throttle, just kind of sets the rear. And then pushes the front out. You get a lot of understeer, like I said, because you have a bit of an off-camber uphill exit here. You don't necessarily want to be all over the exit curbing here. Usually it means you've upset the car too much, and there's actually a little bit to be gained by trying to shorten the distance a little bit here, I find, on the exit. You see here we don't really just hang it all the way around on the edge of the track. We pull it in a little bit. So there's a little bit of time there as well. Okay, so up from third to fourth gear. And this quick right is just a lift. The main thing I'd say here is we're just going to be looking around this barrier. It's a bit tricky because we know most of the corner is obscured from here, so it's going to take a bit of practice, especially if you don't know the track, building up the speed. But it's really just a part lift. So I go down to like 5-10% throttle. If you can kind of carry more throttle in, but you quite often find the car just understeers and you get a lot of scrub in this car, and that costs you a lot of time in the F4. So what we really want to try and do is just try and reduce that scrub with a nice lift and keep the car settled. Early lift, and then get back to full throttle quite early and release the car on the exit. Okay, so this downhill right, quite hard to see from the cockpit where the apex is. Again, going to take a little bit of practice. Point the car in, I'd say, before you go over this crest, and then just have a soft brake. If you don't brake here, the car just won't turn in properly. So just turning as we go down the hill, it'll help the car get hooked up, and then just kind of bounce on the throttle. Once you get it hooked up on this entry curb, we can then go full throttle. Nicely using the exit curb there. And then again, this uphill left is just about track usage. And a soft brake where you don't want to take off too much speed with the brakes, but you also don't want to brake too little and not actually get enough weight on the nose and find that you're scrubbing through the corner as well. So there's a bit of a balance there. So we do a soft brake there, just enough to get us hooked up and the car to nicely rotate on the entry phase. Then we can have a nice aggressive throttle pickup, push this out on the exit. I don't need to come over fully to the left-hand side here. It's just kind of scrubbing the wheel, scrubbing the tires, and taking extra track. This next uphill chicane is quite easy flat, so I find just on this point of the track, kind of about halfway across is good enough. Turning kind of slowly onto this curb. It's just about minimal steering here for where the exit is. And just let the car run over the hill. Get the car straight before we hit the brakes. So the last corner is quite tricky, this uphill left. I'd say it's super important here to be looking, don't get caught up in looking down here, down the bottom of the corner. Really, you're meeting the inside white line somewhere up here. It's quite a long corner. And the other thing as well is it's quite a hard brake, but you've actually got to bleed out quite a bit in the middle of the corner. If you hold the brakes all the way up the hill, what'll happen is you'll gain more and more front grip as you go up the hill. You'll kind of slow the car down too much, and the car will start oversteering. So you've got to kind of compensate as you go up the hill. But you'll see here we've got a downhill phase where we start braking. Then we got our uphill. So we hit the brakes just before it goes back uphill, and then we hit more pressure as we go uphill because we've got more front grip now. And as we turn into the corner, getting more and more steep, you can just see I bleed out of the brakes, try and roll some speed. I don't reach the inside white line curb until about here. So, like I said, really important we do that, because otherwise you're going to turn in too early, and then you're going to get a whole lot of understeer, trying to pick up the throttle way too early as well. So just bleed out nicely on the brakes. Press the throttle, pick up, and then push yourself out to the wall. You won't get a penalty or anything running up to the wall here. It might come up with the pit lane speed limit, but no penalties or off tracks. And then you just keep the wheel straight, and that's the end of your lap. And that takes us to the end of the video. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments below. You can also check out the Coach Dave Academy Discord in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next Lap Guide video. See ya.